Welcome back to more Keep Smiling Adventures. Today I'm breaking down my North Wessex Downs bikepacking route, a ride across one of the most underrated areas of southern England. While it's still fresh in my mind, I'll run through everything you need to know so you can decide if this is a route you want to take on for yourself. I'll cover what kind of bike works best, wild camping options, resupply points, public transport, difficulty from 1 to 10, with 1 being easy and 10 being hard, and my overall rating of this route. Let's get into it. The North Wessex Downs route is roughly 160 miles and it's best ridden over around 3 days, although you could stretch it out or compress it depending on how hard you want to push. The route weaves through the chalk hills of the North Wessex Downs area of outstanding natural beauty, linking together quiet lanes, bridleways, byways. You'll pass ancient trackways, prehistoric sites, stone circles and some remote feeling stretches, despite being in the south of England. The landscape is very chalk based, which means big open views, rolling climbs and fast flowing trails when they're dry. Very slippery when wet though. Elevation wise, it's not mountainous, but it's not flat either, with over 12,000 feet of elevation gain in just 160 miles. Them climbs start adding up, and some of them are pretty steep too, so plenty of climbing and descending throughout the route. And while none of the climbs are huge on their own, they do start to add up over multiple days. It's a route that feels quite wild in places, especially early in the morning or in poor weather, but you're never too far away from civilization if you need it. This route is ideal for riders who already have a bit of bikepacking experience and want something that feels adventurous without being overly technical. Although if you take this route on in the wetter months of the year, it can start to feel a bit more technical, and you will need to pay attention as the trails become extremely slippery, which makes it very easy to go down. In the dry months though, that's not such an issue. If you are comfortable riding bridleways, dealing with challenging trail conditions and spending long days in the saddle, you'll get a lot out of this route. It's not a beginner route in the same way something like the Wolf Way is, mainly because of the elevation and the amount of off-road riding. That said, it's not extreme or intimidating, and the difficulty really depends on the time of year. If you enjoy wide open landscapes, a bit of history, and routes that you can take your time with, then this one will suit you well. It's also a great route if you like that feeling of being out there on your own, even if you're never really that far away from the built-up world. This is one of those routes where bike choice really does affect how much fun you have. In the summer months, a flat bar gravel bike works really well, and a drop bar gravel bike will also get the job done depending on your experience and confidence off-road. When the trails are dry, the chalk is fast and fairly forgiving, and something in the 45mm to 50mm range is what you really ideally want. Once things get wet though, this route starts to favour mountain bikes much more. The chalk becomes slick, the climbs get a bit messy, and the descents can turn rutted pretty quickly. In those conditions, either a rigid mountain bike or an XC hardtail will definitely make the route more enjoyable. Flat bars give you better control, especially on the constant up and down nature of the terrain. And wider tyres at lower pressures make a big difference to grip and confidence. A drop bar gravel bike in winter is doable, but it's definitely harder work and less forgiving. Personally, I think the route just rides better on flat bars, especially when conditions aren't perfect. Suspension isn't essential, but a bit of front suspension would take the edge off and help when the trails get a bit rough. Easy gearing though is a must for this route. The climbs aren't huge, but they are frequent. Having something you can spin rather than grind will make the whole experience far more enjoyable over multiple days. Wild camping along the North Wessex Downs is generally pretty straightforward, with plenty of quiet woodlands scattered around the route. Although this route isn't completely remote and you do pass through villages and farmland, it's still quiet enough to camp without any real stress. I never felt like I was having to ride miles upon miles to find somewhere to set up, as there's plenty of quiet areas along the route. A bivvy, a hammock or a small one-person tent all work well here, depending on how light you want to travel and the time of year. It also wouldn't be that hard to come off the route and stay in a B&B or a hotel if you didn't want to camp. Plenty of options here, and I had absolutely no issues finding places to wild camp. Resupplying on the North Wessex Downs is pretty simple, and I deliberately planned this route to pass through a few key places with shops to make life easier. You don't need to carry days and days worth of food, as long as you are happy topping up little and often. The main resupply points along this route are a place called Pusey, Lambourne and Hungerford, all of which have shops where you can grab food and water and whatever you are craving by that point in the ride. There is the odd small shop in between these also, but between those towns the route is fairly quiet, so it's worth leaving each resupply point with enough to comfortably get you to the next one. There are also pubs and cafes dotted around the area if you fancy a proper sit-down meal or a hot drink. Overall, as long as you plan your days with those towns in mind, resupply never really feels like a problem on this route. As long as you can ride around 30 to 40 miles, you should be good. Getting to and from the North Wessex Downs is pretty straightforward, especially if you are coming from London. Basingstoke is a great place to start, and it's easy to reach by train, with regular services from London Waterloo on South Western Railway trains. These trains do not require bike reservations and also don't have them hanging hooks, so much easier to get the bigger tired mountain bike on. They can get busy at peak times, but in my experience they're not overly strict, and it's usually fine if you avoid the worst of the rush hour. If Basingstoke doesn't work for you, this route is flexible enough that you could just as easily start from Pusey or Hungerford instead. Both towns have train stations, not quite as regular services, but they are directly on the route, making them solid alternative start or finish points. But as a loop, you can jump on wherever you like. Just take a look at the route on keepsmilingadventures.com to figure out which place works best for you. Difficulty wise, I'd give the North Wessex Downs route a solid 7.5 out of 10. On paper it doesn't look extreme, but the combination of distance, elevation and constant up and downs really adds up over a few days. There are very few flat sections where you can just switch off and roll. Instead, you are often either climbing or descending, which makes it physically more demanding than a lot of other southern UK routes. The time of the year you ride this route makes a massive difference. In the wetter months, the chalk turns slick and greasy, ruts form quickly, and even straightforward climbs can become a real grind. Progress can be slow, bikes get clogged with mud, and you end up working a lot harder just to keep moving forward. In those conditions, the route feels tough, both physically and mentally. It can easily catch you out. In contrast, during the drier summer months, the same trails are far more forgiving. The chalk firms up, rolling resistant drops, and you can carry momentum much more easily. While the climbs are still there, they feel more manageable, and the whole route flows better. There's nothing especially technical at any point, but that doesn't mean it's easy. A bit of bikepacking experience definitely helps, especially when it comes to managing energy, choosing the right lines on worn tracks, and dealing with the ever-changing conditions. That said, good pacing, sensible daily distance, and realistic planning matter just as much as outright fitness. Ride it in the right conditions, and it's a challenging but very rewarding route. Ride it in the wrong one, and that 7.5 can quickly start to feel even higher. My overall rating for the North Wessex Downs route is also 7.5 out of 10. It's just a really good place for a bikepacking route. The North Wessex Downs are one of my favourite places to explore, with a really good variety of trails and challenges. Big open landscapes, long rolling climbs, quiet trails and loads of history along the way. In the summer it's fast, flowing and generally fun to ride. While in the winter, wetter months, it turns into something a bit more technical, a lot more physically demanding, but if you are after a route that feels like a good adventure without needing to head to the mountains, this one is definitely worth adding to your list, especially if you need to go out and test your setup. To find more routes like this, plus gear info and everything else, head over to keepsmilingadventures.com. Keep smiling, enjoy the adventure.